125.
Why did you park in front of 125?
When we received the call, we were told that the female that had ran out of the room was now in room 125.
When you got to room 125, did you see anything?
As I got out of my car, I was approached by two people. One of them was a caller, one of the original callers, and then the door to room 125 was open, and Miss Bradell was in the back of the room sitting on the bed.
Okay. How many calls did you actually get? Do you know yourself how many calls went out on dispatch 911 calls?
Well, we only get one.
Okay.
They might receive more, but we only get one call.
Okay, so to your knowledge, you don't have an actual, and you got the one call?
Just the one.
You proceed to room 125, and you see someone that identifies herself as an Emily Brendel.
Correct.
Okay. Did you speak to Miss Brendel?
I did.
And she was sitting on a bed, is that correct?
Correct.
The door was open?
Yes.
You were approached by the two witnesses who stated she had run out of a room, 121, is that correct?
Correct.
And that's why you did what you did?
Yes.
And you said that Miss Brendel had her pants on, is that right?
Yes.
And she had her, your report says brassiere, but I'll just say bra on.
Correct.
Okay. She was crying?
Yes.
And she asked you to contact her mother or her boyfriend?
Correct.
And it was clear that she had been drinking?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, there is a protocol again, and as you move up through the ranks, in terms of taking statements from people, is there not?
I guess I don't understand the question.
You asked the people to leave the room so you could talk in private.
Well, the two witnesses followed me in the room.
Okay.
Because one of the witnesses, that was her actual room.
Okay. So you never talked to Brendel privately?
I did.
Okay.
After I started to talk to her while they were there, and then Miss Dowdall was talking over and interrupting her, and I eventually asked her and the other witness to step out of the room.
Would that be Colleen Dowdall?
Correct.
Describe to me her demeanor.
I would say she was excited.
Okay. Could you tell, were you close enough to tell if she was under the influence of alcohol?
I don't believe she was, but I didn't smell anything on her. She didn't appear to be.
Okay. You ejected her from the room?
I asked her to leave the room, yes.
Okay. And was there another gentleman there, a Charles Pat Beal?
Correct.
And you asked him to leave as well?
Yes.
And were both of them trying, when you said talk over, they basically were talking over so you couldn't actually get a story from this Miss Brendel?
Mr. Beal wasn't. He was quiet. But as Miss Brendel would talk, Dowdall would interrupt her and talk over, so I eventually asked her to leave the room. Both of them.
When you say talk over, was she actually saying, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened? And
to a point, yes.
so in other words, she was indicating at least to a point what happened and trying to guide the Brendel statements, was she not?
I don't know if she was trying to guide her, but they had talked prior to me getting there, and you know, she may have been trying to recite or say some of the stuff that Ms. Brendel told her.
Okay. But in your experience, it was your position as a supervisory police officer, a sergeant, that it was better to talk to Ms. Brendel in private.
Yeah.
She indicated to you, Ms. Brendel, that she worked at the Whaley home?
Yes.
Okay. At that point in time, was she under any criminal investigation?
As a suspect?
Yes.
No.
When you are arresting someone and you want to take them into custody and you want to question them, your training dictates that you give them Miranda rights. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you do that routinely. Is that right?
Yes.
But if someone is just a witness, then you don't have to give them Miranda rights, do you?
No.
You don't have to determine. You take statements all the time from people that have been drinking, do you not?
Correct.
So the idea that somehow if somebody's been drinking, you can't take a statement, that's totally and completely false, isn't it?
I've taken statements from intoxicated people on numerous occasions.
Well, almost any statement involving an alleged drunk driver would be taken from an allegedly intoxicated person, would it not?
Correct.
So the idea that somehow you would be precluded from asking someone questions at a scene because someone's been drinking, that's not true, is it?
No.
So Ms. Brindell said she worked at the Whaley House and she was at a fundraiser earlier that night. Is that correct?
Correct.
She said that she had gone with some friends to a bar. Is that right?
Correct.
And that she had accepted a ride from one Mateen Cleaves.
Correct.
And she told you she thought that they were going to go home, but they ended up at the Night's Inn. Is that right?
She said she thought they were going to go home and to back to the golf club interchangeably on numerous different times.
So she gave different versions.
Yeah. Correct.
She stated that at one point she goes into a room at the Night's Inn.
Correct.
Would that be room 121?
Correct.
And if I'm to believe what's been reported here, she said that she, meaning Miss Burdell, and Mr. Cleaves started to mess around.
Correct.
And by mess around, you meant you understood that they were involved sexually.
Objection to what he understood. He can only testify as to what she said. His interpretation is speculation.
I disagree. I need his interpretation to explain to me what he does next.
But it's speculative. Okay.
It's his impression as a police officer.
Okay.
Sir, Sergeant, she said that they started to mess around. Is that right?
Correct.
She said later, while on the bed, they started messing around, and she was practically clothed. Is that right?
I think it's a typo. It's partially closed.
Partially clothed. Okay. But the important thing is, she said she took her own clothes off.
Correct.
So she told you at the scene, right?
Yes.
Moments after the 911 call goes out, you arrive, right?
Yes.
You stop Mr. Cleaves, correct?
Correct.
You interview Miss Brendel, correct?
Yes.
She says that she started to mess around in a sexual manner with Mr. Cleaves, correct?
Yes.
She says nothing about any assault, correct?
Correct.
And she said she took her own clothes off. Is that correct?
Yes.
In fact, she said at one point in time, she stepped outside to get some air. Is that right?
Yes.
Sergeant, did you have a preconceived notion when you got there?
No.
Sergeant, do you know Mr. Mateen Cleaves?
I absolutely know who he is, but I don't know him.
Sergeant, would you lie for Mr. Mateen Cleaves?
No.
Sergeant, would you, at a scene where Mr. Mateen Cleaves, in your position as a sergeant, had probable cause to arrest him for an assault, would you be precluded from arresting him for any reason?
No.
did you see anything there on that particular evening that would cause you to arrest Mr. Cleaves?
No,
Did anything that Ms. Brendel tell you, give you in your mind as an almost 20-year veteran, probable cause to arrest Mr. Cleaves for any assault?
no,
Sergeant, you not only heard what this woman said, correct?
yes,
But you also had a chance to observe her body, correct? You saw her person.
I did,
You saw Mr. Cleaves, right?
yes,
You had a chance to talk to at least two witnesses, is that correct?
yes,
And after all that, there still was nothing, was there?
no,
In fact, if someone was to say that you were lacking in this investigation, let's run through. You got a call that said there was trouble, right?
correct,
You got a call that said that somebody was pulling somebody back into a room, correct?
right,
So you had that information.
yes,
You talked to a Miss Dowdell.
yes,
You talked to a Mr. Beal, correct?
briefly,
Okay. And you talked to the person that was supposedly the subject of the poll.
yes,
Is that yes?
correct,
Subject of what?
The polling, so the subject of the possible assault. So within minutes of this supposedly happening, you talked to Miss Brendel. Is that right?
yes,
You saw nothing physically that would determine that Mr. Cleaves should be arrested for an assault.
correct,
You saw nothing that you observed that Miss Brendel had been assaulted.
correct,
In fact, you asked her specifically, were you assaulted? Correct?
correct,
I mean, you didn't just leave it to your own devices. You asked her, have you been assaulted? Is that correct, Sergeant?
that's correct.
And will you tell the court what her answer was?
She said no,
And Sergeant, even if someone wants to parse words, it's one of those, the meaning of the word is, or if someone wants to parse and say, well, maybe assaulted, maybe you should have said raped, or you should have said kidnapped or imprisoned. Isn't it true, Sergeant, that you said, is anything else happened?
correct,
So you asked, not only had she been assaulted, and she said no, you asked carte blanche if there's anything else that had happened to her. In other words, giving her the opportunity to make a complaint to you. Is that right?
correct,
And she said no.
correct,
And you were in your Monday Township uniform.
yes,
You were on your official duty.
yes,
You're a sergeant.
I am,
You followed the rules as you've been trained.
yes,
But at that point, there was nothing.
correct.
Is that right? Did you identify any other witnesses that were supposedly in the room with Mr. Cleaves and Miss Brendel?
No,
What did you have at that juncture besides basically a disorderly person or noise complaint?
nothing,
Are you starstruck? I mean, are you somebody that thinks Mr. Cleaves is such a big shot that you just give him a pass?
no,
I mean, no, you've sworn to uphold the law. Is that right?
yes,
And is this gentleman over here somebody that you think is a big hero that somehow you would allow him to assault somebody and just go on his way?
No.
What would you have done if you had evidence at that scene of an assault?
He'd probably got arrested. I would have contacted a detective, and we'd have moved forward with the case.
If you had evidence at that point in time that Mr. Cleaves had done anything with 4 officers out there, he'd have been arrested immediately, wouldn't he?
More than likely, yes.
Is there anything, and I'm going to go through your investigative subpoena with you as well, was there anything about this case that was extraordinary at the time?
No.
How long after did this case start to become extraordinary?
Shortly thereafter.
Was there, were there calls made from other chiefs of police
Yes.
to your department?
Yes.
And that's what started the whole ball rolling here?
Correct.
If I'm to understand, there was a call made by Chief Stam to your chief.
I'm going to object, because all this would be hearsay off of the truth of the matter asserted. His opinion about whether something's extraordinary or not is not relevant. He can ask him what he said, did, what happened, but his opinion about other things, not relevant.
I want you to respond to that.
The reason I'm responding to it is because this particular case, this officer...
You're responding to her objection. That's what I want you to respond to.
Tell me what the objection is again, there have been so many.
Please tell him.
What this witness thinks about how things came about and who contacted who is not relevant from this officer. It's just not relevant.
And your response?
My response is that it shows what he had to do next.
And then on top,
Go ahead, Ms. Lincoln.
Your Honor, what he feels about what anybody else did is not relevant. He's here to give the facts of what he did and what he didn't do on that date.
All right. I'm going to rule this way. And you have to listen to me, Mr. Manley.
I am, Judge.
What this witness may or may not have heard happened that came from third parties other than his direct command staff that he would have had to respond to in the furtherance of his job duties is hearsay. Now, his command staff is different. If the command staff said, you will go do X, Y, Z because I've been informed of A, B, C, that's different. That's not hearsay. He's relying on what he's been told to complete his job duties. But who called who to put pressure is not relevant.
I can move on.
And it's hearsay.
I can move on. Sir, you had completed the investigation, correct?
Yes.
You had determined that there was no crime, correct?
Correct.
You had been informed by the alleged complainant in this case she was not assaulted, correct?
Correct.
Case closed, correct?
Yes.
And at some point in time, you went back up to where Mr. Ogle, Officer Ogle was,
Yes.
and with Mr. Cleaves there?
Excuse
Yes.
me, are we talking about that night? Or
Yes,
are we talking
that
about
night.
Okay.
I moved off of that, and I'll go what my other question was, Your Honor. And Mr. Cleaves, you asked, or Officer Ogle asked about a breathalyzer.
I asked.
And he said he wasn't going to take one.
Correct.
And you gave him a ride home, is that correct?
We determined that prior to that, it was our opinion that he wasn't intoxicated beyond the level of operating a motor vehicle. So I offered him a PBT to ensure that he wasn't. He refused. At that time, he said he was going to walk home. I decided that it would be in the best interest of me giving him a ride home.
Isn't that just for safety?
That, make sure that, you know, obviously people walking in the middle of the night on the side of the road is not a good thing, so.
I mean, that the idea that you gave him a ride home was not for any other reason that you determined no crime on his part, right?
Correct.
No crime involving anybody else, right?
Correct.
And you're to protect and serve. To give him a ride home protects everybody, correct?
Correct.
And if indeed, taking it one step further, if indeed there had been some altercation, it certainly separates the parties, doesn't it?
Yes.
So on all fronts, it's the smart thing to do, correct?
I thought it was at the time.
I'm going to go through some of this stuff here. And you said that you've not ever looked at your investigative subpoena. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And a part of your job is that you review reports from the officers?
Yes.
And the officers that you supervise, they're what are known as first responders. Is that correct?
Sure.
In other words, they're usually the car that gets there first. Is that right? And you're a traffic sergeant? Or just a night shift
Your
sergeant?
Honor, I'm object. He's asked his qualifications before. He doesn't have to re-ask them.
I'm sustaining you. I'm sustaining you.
That's fine. But the reason I was asking is, you're in charge of the reports that come in. Is that correct?
I review reports also. Yes.
Okay. So you would be, and you were on this particular scene. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you created a report. Is that correct?
I did.
And Officer Ogle created a report?
The next day, yes.
Okay. Is there anything that is unusual about the way that you handled the reporting of this incident?
No.
Was this incident handled in a professional manner?
Yes.
Was this incident handled in any way, shape, or form that gave any partiality to Mr. Cleaves?
No.
There were 4 officers on site, okay? Did you see anybody give, since you're the supervisor, any special treatment to Mr. Cleaves?
No.
Did you go down to room 121?
No.
Why would you have gone to room 121? Why would you have?
I have no reason to go down there.
So if somebody said, I was not assaulted, I was not...
Your Honor, I'm going to go on. This has been asked and answered. He's already explained what he did. Objection. Asked and answered. Cumulative.
Overruled.
You had information. So if somebody wants to Monday morning quarterback you and say you did not go to room 121, will you tell the judge why you didn't go to room 121?
Because
Tell the judge.
the victim said she wasn't a victim of any crime. Or Miss Brendel said she wasn't a victim of any crime.
So what would have been your probable cause to go to room 121?
I had no reason to go down there.
So if someone was to criticize you for doing that...
Objection, question, argumentative, Judge. Just before you even get to that, if somebody was to criticize, that question is argumentative.
I can ask it a different way. That's not a problem. In your training and experience, there was no reason to go down there.
Correct?
Tell me this. You didn't look at any video footage, correct? Or did you?
The video footage that we've used in the past for that hotel, in that area where we were at, the video quality is so poor you can't make out anything other than silhouettes.
Okay.
And that's at best.
So really, you weren't asleep at the switch there either, were you?
No.
Excuse me. Mr. Manley, Miss Lindsay, would you approach?
Even if if the film had been of digital quality, you had no probable cause to go do anything, did you?
If it had been a quality video, I may have reviewed the video just to confirm or deny what the witness said.
Okay. At one point in time, she said, Miss Brendel said to you, she just went into the bathroom and got naked and just ran out. Is that true?
I don't recall her saying that to me.
If I showed you your investigative subpoena, would that help refresh your memory?
Please give me
Page
the
11.
Page number.
Page 11. And
Page 11.
line 7, 8, 9.
Can I have?
December 16th.
Your Honor, I'm going to object.
What's the objection?
This is going to be improper getting in defendant's statement.
May I see what you're talking about? Although probably I shouldn't.
Yes, this goes to what the defendant would have said and his impression about what the defendant would have said. Definitely object. He can't put in the defendant's own statements.
He already had the defendant's own
Defendant.
statement.
Defendant.
Okay. Now we're going back to 801D.
I'll move on.
Thank you.
You didn't take a formal statement that night from anybody, did you?
I didn't advise anybody their rights or take them back to office for a formal statement, no.
And there was no reason to do that, was there?
No.
So when you say you didn't write, did you take some notes?
I took some, but no statement notes.
Explain to the court why you did what you did.
Why
Why you took some notes, but you later formalized it into a report.
Well, we always write down names and addresses in a pad, and then, you know, as we're talking to people, some people jot down notes in their pad to assist them in writing a report later.
You have what you call a daily
Yes.
log, and you would write your notes. Is that right?
There's not really notes in there. It's more of an activity log,
Okay.
what you're up to, what you're doing.
And would I be correct when I said that your police reports are synopsis and summaries?
Yes.
Did you in fact talk to the people involved in this incident?
I did.
Did you make a summary of what happened?
I did.
Was it accurate?
Yes.
To your knowledge, did you leave anything out?
Leave anything out of my synopsis?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, what did you leave out?
Well, it's a summary. My report, what I left out, you know, about the video camera not working is something that, or the quality of video on the building is something that's not in my report.
Did you leave anything out that would have caused you to arrest Mr. Cleaves?
No.
Did you leave anything out that would have suggested that this woman told you she'd been assaulted?
No.
Did you leave anything out that said that this woman was the victim of a crime?
No.
Those are things that would be very important, would they not?
Correct.
So those are things that would not be just small, trivial matters. So those would be included in a summary, would they not?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you left Miss Brendel, is that correct?
I did.
Now, as a veteran police officer, you would not have left her if you felt she was in danger. Isn't that true, sir?
Correct.
So you had looked at the scene and made a determination that she was not in danger. Is that correct?
Correct.
You understood that someone was coming to pick her up, correct?
Yes.
That she had not been the victim of any crime, correct?
Correct.
and that she was safe as she sat there. Is that correct?
Yes.
So any suggestion that you just left her by the side of the road and say some partiality to Mr. Cleaves would be totally incorrect. Is that right?
That's right.
You didn't wait for Miss Brendel to, quote-unquote, sober up, did you?
No.
You were satisfied that she was telling you the truth at that time, were you not, sir?
Yes.
So you didn't feel like you needed to sit there, lodge her, and wait till she's 000'd out to talk to her, did you, sir?
No.
And you talked to her directly for a period of at least 10 minutes to determine how she was.
I would say approximately that.
And you were in the room with her, correct?
Yes.
Did she ever strike out at you as a male, push you away, or do anything of that nature?
No.
Did she ever scream out, go get Mateen Cleaves, or Mateen did this to me, or anything of that nature?
No.
Did she ever say anything to you like, of the respect, go get him, he's getting away?
No.
You did indeed talk to Dowdell. In fact, you talked to her enough that you had her leave, did you not?
I did.
You did indeed talk to Pat Beal, did you not?
That was brief.
But you did talk to him.
Yeah.
And you talked to Mr. Cleaves, right?
Briefly, yes.
Did you talk to Pam Harwood?
Briefly.
Pam Harwood.
Would you spell it, please?
Yes, first name Pam, P-A-M, last name H-R-A-W-O-O-D.
Thank you.
Sergeant, what witnesses did you not talk to?
That was all the witnesses that I was aware of.
So you talked to every single one?
Yes.
Now, at some point in time later, were you asked questions again about why you didn't go into that room?
Stop. Who's asking these questions? How much later?
I can do that. Back on December 16th, 2015, on an investigative subpoena, were you asked by Ms. Lindsay,
Your Honor, at this juncture, I'm lodging an objection because the transcript can only be used for two witnesses, to impeach, for two purposes, to impeach and to refresh recollection, neither of which has been done here. He's not saying he forgot anything about what he said, so it's not refreshing recollection, so you can't refer to the transcript, and he's not using it to impeach him by him saying something different than what he said to me at the investigative subpoena transcript. So him merely reading off what was said at the investigative subpoena transcript is improper.
Can I get answer the first part one? I would love to. Because this goes to my earlier statement about the prosecutorial misconduct. She is asking him to say that I can refresh his memory with the investigative subpoena. It is her witness. She refused to give him a copy of the investigative subpoena. He has sat for 4 days out here. Every single witness that has come up here, Rendell, Klein, Dowdell, have all been given the investigative subpoenas. She, Miss Lindsay of the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, has had this sergeant out here for 4 days and has refused not only to talk to him, but to give it to him. So again, I lodged what I lodged earlier today. I think there's a prosecutorial misconduct on behalf of Miss Lindsay. But I'll move on the question.
No, I don't want that. I want to let Ms. Lindsay
That's fine.
respond, and then I'm going to make a comment.
First of all, the rules of evidence apply. Second of all, this witness was represented by counsel. I can't speak to a person who's represented by
Who
counsel.
was he represented by?
Mr. Goldpaw, during the investigative subpoena process, he had an attorney. I can't just go willy-nilly up to a person who is represented by counsel. He claims that he made contact trying to get a copy of the investigative subpoena transcript. First of all, as the court knows, I can't release a copy of the investigative subpoena transcript without a court order. Second of all,
why did you release those investigative subpoena contents to other people?
I didn't release it. I did not release the actual transcripts.
But
They
you
were
allowed them to review
right.
them.
But this officer claimed he wanted to see it. He had counsel. Did his counsel? Did you ever hear him say, Mr. Goldpaw contacted me? So he can see. He can say stuff on the stand, but just because he says it doesn't mean it's true. He was represented by Mr. Goldpaw. How come Mr. Goldpaw did not contact me and say, my client desires to see his investigative subpoena transcript? So, you know, you're going on a lot of stuff. We can ask this witness, was he represented by counsel? Did he have a lawyer? None of that came out.
So how was the court supposed to know it?
Well, the court is just taking counsel's word that he...
You're assuming I'm doing that.
Well, when he says he made attempts to see his investigative subpoena, he said, was there any documentation that was presented? Just this witness's word. This witness, when he came down, was given my phone number, whatever. So this whole thing about him trying to use the transcript, unless he's using it for two purposes, to refresh recollection and to impeach him, he cannot start reading willy-nilly from the transcript.
Okay? I'm going to rule. It is my belief that if Sergeant Johnson wanted to see his subpoena transcript prior to this preliminary exam taking place, and if in fact he called or wrote or requested through someone, Detective Nearing, Miss Lindsay, whoever, that he be given that, and they did not respond as they just responded now, requested through your attorney, they ignored him. They didn't give him the chance. No, I'm ruling. Had they responded, we'll give it to your attorney, have your attorney contact us, something like that, this court would be convinced that Miss Lindsay is absolutely correct. At this point, Mr. Manley, you may refresh his memory with the transcript. You may not read it.
Thank you, Judge.
Well, Judge, can we take a sidebar and can we see proof of the documentation where he actually sent and requested it? Because
I'm not requiring that he send it. He could have called you and said, I want to see, not you personally, your office, and said, I want to see my investigative.
well, where's the documentation?
Let me finish. I said there doesn't have to be documentation. He could have called and said, I want to see this. Whoever answered the call, whomever, could have said, you have to request it through your attorney. I'm not requiring that he have documentation. I'm going, by the way, by your word, Miss Lindsay, that he was represented by counsel. Okay, fine. Then I understand you don't release it to him. You release it to counsel. I'm not going to require documentation. A phone call would have been enough. You may refresh memory with that transcript.
Yeah.
Sit down.
Thank you, Judge.
So in other words, don't ask him literally, did you say this? Ask him the question and see if he remembers. If he doesn't, then you can refresh.
Thank you, Judge. You know what, Your Honor, I think Sergeant Johnson has testified what he saw, and I think the court has heard exactly what he saw, and I have asked him enough questions for this moment. If there's a redirect, I will do that. Thank you, Sergeant Johnson.
Thank you, Miss Lindsay, I want to ask your preference, ma'am.
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay. It is now 25 minutes to 3. Mr. Muscat must leave, I must shut down by 2:55. Do you want to start your cross now, do you want to start your cross Monday?
Can I just ask one question now and
Of
then?
me or of the witness?
Of the witness.
Then that's starting your cross, you understand? And that doesn't mean, Miss Lindsay, we can't interrupt your cross. I mean, please don't get me wrong. It's just a lot of attorneys like to have it in one flow, you know.
Okay, can we approach?
Sure. We see you. You guys check.
She knows that. And in fact, I got it. He should have had a copy of it. She knows she has a copy of it. The law department. It wasn't until today, they didn't call. That's why they subpoenaed. They've been sitting out there for 4 days. So it's this. No, I understand. I have no problem with that. I'm still talking. Well, the idea that he said he requested from my email and so forth, I don't know. He may not know. But the idea that he somehow reached out. I mean, the stipulation.
I understand that, and that's all right, they'll come back. On the record. We're back on the record in the matter of Mateen Cleaves, 16G538FY. Sergeant Johnson, Miss Lindsay is going to ask you one question. You may answer that question, and then we are going to recess. So there will be one question and one question only, sir.
Who did you contact in my office seeking your investigative subpoena transcript?
I contacted and spoke with Detective Nearing and asked him for a copy of it, but I didn't speak to anybody in your office personally.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
One
One question, one question only. We are going to recess at this time. We will reconvene at 9 a.m. Monday morning. Mr. Muscat, now I understand we're off the record, aren't we? I'll get me off the record. We're stopping. Mr. Muscat, I am to understand that your wire comment was a getting only, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
The
there's no
camera people
reason-
have not interfered with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for me to have to stay in the courtroom and direct the unwiring of all of this.
No.
May I ask you a favor, sir? Last time you were here, somehow the input on my Polycom got messed up. I'm not saying you did it, I'm just saying it did, and I could not do jail videos. Would you please
Yeah,
check back?
I'll fix it. I did see one of the camera people.
All right, you camera people. Sergeant, oh, this needs to be on the record. Just a second, oh, anybody get up? Oh, we're back on the record in Mateen Cleaves. Sergeant Johnson, you are ordered at this time that you are not to discuss your testimony with anyone. You understand me, sir?
Clear, ma'am.
Is Brian Ogle here today?
He's left the building.
Get him in here. Detective Hearing, you, sir, I expect are going to be a witness. I don't know for sure, but I expect it. You're not to discuss this witness's testimony or your own possible testimony with anyone other than staff. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
I don't know where.
I think Lieutenant Rule went to go get him. I want the order to come from me and not from Sergeant Johnson, Detective Nearing, or somebody.
I understand. Thank you.
Although he may have left the building, I don't know.
I think he's still under subpoena.
He's on his way back.
Stevie, now we all know it. Okay, we're still on the record, people.
Judge, on a side note, the transcripts were prepared from the first 2 days. I guess them from
My understanding is they were emailed.
Wayne County
to Ms.
already
Lindsay.
has them.
We got them.
Did you get the hard copies? I
Yes.
understand they were emailed.
We were here. We got them emailed and we received them when we came here last
Okay.
week, I think.
Yes, you.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Are you Officer Brian Ogle, sir?
Yes, Your Honor, I am.
Okay, step right up to the podium, sir. Sir, this matter is going to continue Monday, December the 5th at 9 a.m. You are ordered to be here, your subpoena is continued, and you are not, I don't know if you'll be called, please understand me, I don't know. But you are not to discuss any testimony of Sergeant Johnson with him or anyone else, nor are you to discuss what you might testify to if you're called. I don't know if you will or not, but the subpoena is continued. And Detective Nearing, you'll be here anyway because you're the OSC, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, could we have a court order that Mr. Bryant be here as well? I believe he's still in the building for our subpoena.
Is he here in the building?
Yes.
And where is he? Is he?
We'll make sure he's here, John.
You'll make sure he's here. All right.
Thank you, Judge. Well, here's the thing with that.
Do I need him
I'd
in
like
here?
him in here, and I'll tell you why.
Because I don't want him talking to her about this.
Smart lady.
I always have this.
I know that.
Officer Johnson, excuse me, Sergeant Johnson, you are excused from the witness stand
Thank you, ma'am.
this time. Miss Lindsay, could I ask that Detective Nearing go and get Mr. Bryant and bring him to the courtroom, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Am I free to go, Your Honor?
Yes, you are.
Done for the day?
Yes.
Thank
done
you.
for today.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll see you Monday.
Now, see, every one of you is going to miss me next Friday at 5 o'clock when I walk out of here retired. Every one of you.
you don't know how much I'm looking forward to it.
We have an inkling.
Yeah. Are you Mr. Michael Bryant, sir?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Bryant, this matter is going to continue on Monday at 9 a.m. There is a potential, sir, that you're a witness in this case. Just a potential. I don't know if you'll be called or not, but I'm ordering you to be here Monday morning at 9 a.m.
All right.
Further, it's my understanding that you are the boyfriend of Emily Brenzel.
Yes.
I'm ordering you not to talk to her about her testimony. You are not to let her talk to you, and you are not to talk about any potential testimony you might be giving if you're called. Do you understand?
I do understand.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you Monday morning at 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
You're free to leave, sir. Ms. Lindsay, I want to ask your opinion now. We're adjourning, until Monday. Do you want these original exhibits back? Do you trust the court to keep them? What?
I don't know what the court has.
I have the original stipulated to what was admitted and what wasn't. The forensic nurse's report.
Those are your copies, those are not.
Okay, then I'm going to secure them.
I think the only thing the original things you have are the MSP reports.
Yes. I just want to ensure I get the same ones back before I have to make a decision in this case.
Yeah, she has the right ones, your works.
It's up to you whether you would like to keep them or for us to bring them back.
I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to look at them between now and Monday
Well,
morning.
then I'll take them back.
Okay. I am going to keep what you stipulated to as evidence.
Yeah, it did.
But I have 1, 2, 3, 4 reports.
They should have hole punches on them.
They do. And I'm also giving you back the nurse's forensic
But
report.
that's your own.
Well, that's my own copy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend, people.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you.